and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 39 of the D.M.C podcast with your host today, myself, truly and sincerely, Adam Rigby, and my co-host today, my VIH, my very impressive human, a man who has climbed into the stratosphere of group fitness with his undeniable charisma and unstoppable work ethic. He's an author, a philosophical poet, devoted husband, educator, motivator, agitator, communicator, emancipator, a wonderfully deep, complex, and articulate human being. Is Mr. Marlon Woods. Brother,
thank you, bro.
Welcome.
Kia ora. Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Look, a couple of things. There's a couple of firsts here. My friend, obviously, I sent you a message, and you're my first official DM slide. So there's a couple of things, and never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that my ideal picture of a DM slide would be you, my friend. But here we are. And you're the first person that this is the first time we've really had the opportunity to chat, which I love. The first time we've had to which we've had to connect, and I think through the world that we live in, I mean, we can talk about Les Mills, but that's a part of why I wanted to connect with you. There's a sense of inevitability how paths will always cross and collide, right? When you're a pool of combined purpose and growth and development, I think it's only a matter of time before you meet. Or there's that collision. So this is now for us. So I'm certainly grateful to share this moment with you. So thank you for responding and not ghosting me, bro. Thanks for not ghosting me, bro.
Yeah, definitely. you know what, Adam? Like, this is not me tooting my own horn, but a lot of people get ghosted, like a lot, and it's not because it's because they're just. And look, I don't know who gets a lot of messages. I'm no Dwayne Johnson or Kevin Hart, but I try and get through as many messages as I can. And I saw the message in my request, and again, like, 'cause this is our first time talking, but I'm like, this guy seems like a cool guy. I was like, I don't want to miss this message. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like,
thank you.
Yeah, I was panicking because I was trying to figure out when I'd have time before I left. Because like when you got a trip planned or something like that, all of a sudden you feel like you don't have any time to do anything. But I was like, I'll definitely have time to do that. So, yeah,
man,
sure.
I appreciate it. I really do. Yeah, given the fact that you've got to jump on a jet plane and head to your home, away from your home, which is your home, ironically, and we'll dive into that. I want to point to a couple of things actually, and obviously through I mentioned group fitness, and that's part of the journey for you. And we can talk a little bit about that, and you've probably talked about it a lot. You've got your Instagram account, which is incredibly popular and amazing. And for me, you actually typify, I call it the pointy end, and what's great about social media and what's great about Instagram. And what I mean by that is your ability to communicate through your charisma, your sense of humor. But I think it's also given an opportunity because people see the picture and the invisible stuff, right? They don't see the real you. Yeah. They don't see the off time, the down time. They don't get to have share those intellectual moments, a deeper connection with your purpose. And I think what's amazing for your channel is the initial connection and attraction with all of the stuff you do, which is out there, bro, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so wonderfully, uniquely you, and to follow you through that journey, but also see the deeper connected side, your purpose, the depth, the intelligence, the way you're able to articulate even the toughest of conversations. So I just want to really commend you for that and say this is why I reached out to you on that level as a human being, because I think what you're doing is unbelievably just great in it, and it connects on so many levels.
Thank you.
Is that something you've been aware of, like the journey that you've taken through not only group fitness but social media? You know, has it allowed you to open up? Has it taken time? Because again, people see the picture, people see the poster, people see the poses,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
you know, what's the challenge for you? Because is there the expectation that you always have to be that guy? Is it quite refreshing to be able to share so much more of yourself?
So this has taken me 8 years to master, and or let's call it 7. I first got social media in 2013. I got Instagram 2013. I started bodybuilding, and the bodybuilding community has this, I wouldn't call it toxic, but it has this, bodybuilding demands so much of you. You can't help but become consumed. And when you become consumed by it, you get immersed in this culture, and it takes on this very, which is obvious to a lot of people, this very vain and attention seeking and externally validated type of living. And you become obsessed with opinions and the subjectivity and comparisons, because the nature of bodybuilding is comparison. It's not absolute, it's not objective.
Yeah.
And I got to this place where, you know, I remember the day it stopped for me. I posted a picture of my abs. Just saying it makes me cringe. Literally just saying it makes me cringe. And I can see that picture in my head, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing? And for me, that was like, you know what? This isn't for me. I was like, this isn't me. If I can't do this and feel good about it, then I'm just gonna stop. And I was feeling down on myself. I'm comparing my followers to other people's followers and how many likes I'm getting to how many likes other people are getting. All the usual, just like stuff that's bad about social media. Got rid of it. Picked it up again because we opened a gym in Augusta, Georgia, me and my business partner, a powerlifting bodybuilding gym. And so we needed social media again. So it was the gym's account, but I ran it. And, you know, was trying to, you know, do stuff for the gym and, you know, 7 days free, etc. And, you know, lifting videos, the usual, but it still felt icky. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to do social media, I'm going to do it for the gym. I'm going to do it the way that Marlon would do it. And I'm going to use this as a platform of expression. And so that's when I first started making memes. Like this was 2014, 2015. I was a meme maker, like gym memes. And I was actually really good at making memes. Like I had a few memes that got like picked up by some like the huge gym accounts, like Gymshark picked up some, like, so I was really good at it because I'm a funny person. And then I went a step further, and I was like, if I want people in the gym, I want people to come to the gym because I like the personality of the gym. So I started making funny videos in the gym, and that evolved into me using like different characters in the gym, and I started to kind of express myself a little bit more. And I wasn't as concerned with being a big burly man with a beard and lifting heavy weights and driving a truck, even though I did have a beard and drove a truck and lifted weights. But I was, you know, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna wear tights and I'm gonna wear sports bra. I'm gonna do this because I think this would be funny. And people loved it. And so that evolved into, I had different characters, but then I started to feel like people were laughing at me instead of with me. And so I went to a point where I was like, okay, yes, these characters are funny, but it's starting to feel less and less and less like me. So I'm going to pull it back a little bit, and I want to share a little more of my mind as well. So let's call this like 2016, 2017. And I started to find the flow with this. And then 2018, I made a decision, okay, I'm going to take social media seriously. and I'm gonna put effort into it. And when people come to my page, I want them to get humor, motivation, or inspiration, and or inspiration. And so I started to develop a brand around this kind of um, three-tiered model of myself in my mind. And that felt way better. Then I got sucked into the drama, like the Les Mills and some like drama on the teams. And I started to take on this vibe of like being a straight shooter and like no bullshit talking and kind of, addressing things head on. But that began to take on a negative tone. And I never wanted anybody to feel like I was pointing a finger at them or I was judging them. And I remember the post that did it. It was a post and I wanted to say, we start a lot of things and we quit a lot of things, but it felt like I was saying you're lazy and you don't want to hold yourself accountable. And I thought, and you said this earlier, like all the things that are good about social media. And I said to myself, when people come to my page, do I want them to leave feeling better or worse than when they came? And I did a lot of soul searching about what my values are, what's important to me. And I realized my top two values are positivity and respect.
Awesome.
And I said, from now on, no post I do will ever have a negative connotation ever again. I don't want any post to ever have anyone leave my page and not feel better about themselves than when they came. I don't want a head to drop. I don't want shoulders to slump. I don't want a smile to disappear. I want you to feel inspired. I want you to feel motivated. I want you to feel empowered. And most of all, I want you to be happy when you leave. I want you to be excited about taking a step or taking on a challenge or challenging yourself or challenging someone else. And that's been the case since probably 2019. And my favorite part about this question about social media is people feel like you can't change. Like if you change, then you're fake, or if you're changed, then you're not authentic, or if you change, then like you're just doing it for likes, or you don't have a backbone, or you just blend in with the crowd. But no one can escape the entropy of the universe, right? Things change, people change. And this evolution over the past, 6, 7, 8 years is why I'm in a place now where I don't have to put limits on Instagram, or I don't have to take breaks from Instagram. And there's nothing wrong if you do. But for me, it's such a healthy relationship. And it's such an important tool for me and what I believe my purpose is, that it's become something that adds to my life rather than takes away.
Beautiful.
It's an extremely long way.
And I get that. I love that you bring your values into it, because I've got two children. We've had this conversation about determining what your values are and staying true to those and not having to compromise. But evolution is a great term. And I think if we rewind to the start of your fitness journey, and you talk about there was a fair bit of resistance. I mean, you've come out of the part that I really love is you knew nothing about group fit. You knew nothing about who the personalities were, who the so-called stars were within the bubble of the Les Mills world or group fitness. You saw it, you were attracted to it, and you said, they're great, I want to be that great. And so your main focus, and this is what I referred to back with your work ethic, and they talk about, it takes 10,000 hours, and man, I got the feel from listening to the conversation you talk about it, that it wouldn't matter if it took 20,000 hours, that you'd pick a number and double it, because
absolutely
that's part of your DNA. But where does that drive come from?
It's I'm hesitant to say it has unhealthy roots, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that wasn't a small part of it. I grew up in a very competitive environment, and succeeding, and more importantly, winning, was such a big part of my life. And when I look back on it now, I ask myself, because there are plenty of other, people who are, guys who I grew up with, who grew up in the same environment, played the same sports, but we don't have the same drive. And for me, there has always been a want, almost actually a need to be the best at whatever I am doing. And that got tested after, when I went to college, because up until I was 18, senior in high school, everything came easy. School came easy. I was able to use my gifts and my talents to as leverage. And yes, I honed them, and yes, I worked on certain things, and yes, I studied, but my God-given gifts and talents, or whatever I was born with, definitely gave me an edge. And it wasn't until I got to college, university, that I realized talent is one thing, skill is another. And talent will only get you so far, but if you want to be the best, you have to work at it. And I had a coach tell me, he said, "You are extremely talented, but I need you to work harder." And that's the first time anyone had ever told me that what I had wasn't enough, because it had always been enough. And I adored this and admired this coach so much and respected him so much that, to me, it became a personal challenge. And honestly, from that day forward, like, I went to school year round for 3 years when I was in university. I didn't take summer breaks. I did courses over the summer. I lifted weights for football over the summers. Like, this incessant want to be the best I can be at whatever it is I'm doing has turned into this voracious appetite for challenge. And I'm constantly looking for things and finding things to conquer. And I'm like, I want to do this. I did it. Yes. Okay, now I want to do this. I did it. Yes. Okay, I want to do this. I did it. Yes. I want to teach myself how to swim. Wait, what? Okay, let's do it. Okay, we're going to do that. And so it's I need it. I need those goals. I need the stretch. I need the push. I need it to be just a little more difficult than I'm willing, than I want it to be. That makes me work a little harder than I'm willing to. Like, I want that. And quite honestly, I need that every day, because as soon as I don't have that, I begin to drift.
Yeah, bro. Like, hard work wins, and we hear it time after time. We see a lot of talented people, and I think everybody's come across in a college environment or school environment where you've got these people that are on cruise mode, and that follows them the rest of their lives, because it becomes too easy. They don't have the work ethic. So if I can coach anything, it'll be work ethic above everything else. Hard work wins. You combine that with talent, unstoppable.
Definitely
beatable. And it's funny you mention that too, because you step into a school environment, you're playing in a puddle, and then as you go through life, you transition into a pond. Your pond becomes a lake. Your lake becomes the ocean. and suddenly you're like, oh, fuck, hang on a second, because there's so many different variables, so many other wonderful things that are getting thrown at you. I love that determination. And even if I go back, right, you come to a stage where you get an opportunity, you get an audition, you get onto this the squad, or if you can call it that, the team. You get onto this team, and there's this massive resistance that you came up against. You went through the process, you followed the process to the T, you got the acceptance to say yep, and then hold on time. you found out that there was people conspiring to actually stop you as part of that journey, because to them, in your eyes, you hadn't done the work.
Yes.
All they saw was the picture. All they saw was this young guy. They didn't see the 20,000 punches. They didn't see the hours and hours of countless practice and determination.
Very true.
And I mean, how do you overcome that, to feel as though you've put yourself in a position to be the best you can be, to get to a point where it's gratified to a certain extent, where they've said, yep, you've accepted into the next part of your career. You're like, yes. And then wham, you get hit with something like that, bro. I mean, how do you pick yourself up after that?
It was definitely a shock, and it's something I hadn't dealt with before, because everywhere else in my life, people had seen the work because they were there with me.
Yeah.
And these are my peers that I was, that I was playing the same sports with. I was on the same teams. I was at the same schools. They knew that I was at the same practices. They saw me working before practice, after practice. And so, as you said, I stepped into this brand new world, these brand new personalities, this brand new machine. And to be met with that resistance. And honestly, still today, I struggle with this limiting belief of I'm the new guy and I have to prove myself. And so when I was met with that resistance, I responded with more work and with more dedication and with more determination and with more practice, because I needed people to know that I belonged there. And I was willing to do whatever it took. Nobody knows how many hours of GoPro footage I have of me in the gym with 100 tracks on shuffle, just fighting in the mirror, talking to myself. I did this for months. I would go every day and I would set the GoPro up and I would just turn it on film, and I would go back and I would watch, and I said, I need to fix this. I need to fix that. I need to fix this. That doesn't sound good. Oh, that's too much talking. Oh, I don't like your voice there. But what I didn't realize was the better I got, the more apprehensive people became. And because I didn't know anybody, I didn't have any friends, and no one knew my quote unquote intentions. And so oh, is he here to replace? Is he trying to outdo? Well, he's never done this before and he's never done that before. And meanwhile, in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I've never done this before. I've never done that before. And so I got to work harder and I got to practice more and more and more and more. And it's just, it's so interesting that it's so interesting. And the universe is just a trippy place. So interesting that the focus for this podcast today is purpose, because I've been reading a lot lately and it's all been about purpose. And I know that Les Mills was that intersection of passion and purpose for me. And all these things that I've been good at, but wasn't really sure, what exactly they would manifest into. And then this thing I'd never heard of, but was drawn to, comes into my life. And it's the perfect storm. All the things that I'm good at and that I love doing, and this vehicle that is Les Mills intersect, and it's combustion. It literally skyrocketed, and I wasn't ready for it. And the people around me in the beginning weren't ready for it. And I was fighting that you don't belong here and that you're the new guy attitude within myself and from others. I kid you not, Adam, even today, there's still remnants of that. You need to chill out because you've been here since breakfast, you need to relax. And I know that it holds me back because sometimes people are looking to me for leadership. They're looking to me for that guidance. And I've always been a leader. I've always gravitated towards the front. But that experience at the start has really imprinted on me. And I don't want anyone to think I'm arrogant. I don't want anyone to think I'm entitled. I don't want anyone to think I'm not willing to do the work. And so I still have my head down and I'm still working as hard as I possibly can all the time so that people don't think I don't belong.
And it's funny. So the arrogance is one thing that resonates with me too, bro, because when you're confident, when you know you've done the work and you walk a certain way and you act a certain way under pressure situations, people's perception is arrogance.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And it's difficult when you walk into those situations because that's very hard to break. We live in a world of first impressions, right? We walk in and they're like, yep, person able to have conversations, not dominating the space, but there's an element of control when you're in the room. You know what I mean? People gravitate towards you, and I'll sort of lean into that a bit later. But until people really take the time, and that's why conversations like this are important, right? Like stopping to get to know someone, like actually not going by what you've heard indirectly, but what you've experienced directly is the key.
Yes.
And it's funny, I've found myself, tradition is important, history is important, and I celebrate those that have come before us and paved the way, right? Allowed us to do what we do in a format that we do. So many great stories, so many great names in the history of group fitness and in any sport and any game. And you can find your heels deeply rooted in that. It can act like cement sometimes. Yes. And what I think is, the term that I find funny is, it's not like it used to be. But my viewpoint is it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be. This is that word that you said, bro. Evolution, right?
Yeah.
Evolution. Definitely. Not so much change, but it's life. It is progression. It's new people. It's new ways of doing things. It's new mindsets. Yeah. It's new ways of moving. So, bro, when you talk about the necessity to throw punches, and that, when did the comparison, has the comparison become clarity for you, or is that still a work in progress? Do you know what I mean? Are you still comparing yourself to others? Have you got that confidence that you're doing the right thing and just trying to amend the stuff you're doing? Are you still stuck in a loop of comparison?
That's a really good question. I'll probably, I'll remember. It was the round we filmed Body Pump 111 and Body Combat 81. This was spring. I think this was April, May 2019. Whoa, yeah, 19. And I got done filming. And normally when I get done filming, I have this like elation, exaltation, this, oh wow, like it's finished. And I'm immediately going to find Kylie and be like, hey, what feedback do you got from me? Like, what can I do better? And like, I had all of this, like, I have all these feelings and emotions going around, this relief. And that had happened every round up until Pump 110, Combat 78, or whatever last one I was on. We filmed 111 and 81. And I get done and I'm like, oh, like, hey, Kylie, did I do okay? And she was like, oh my God, that was amazing. That's probably your best track ever. And I was like, it doesn't feel like it. She was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel, I feel different. She's like, well, you did amazing. And after we filmed Combat, the same thing happened. And I'm like, Dan, I'm like, yo, he's like, how do you feel about it? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, normally I like have all these, like this very acute awareness of like how I'm feeling and what went right and what went wrong. But today it just kind of feels like, he was like, and he finished by saying he was like another day in the office. And I was like, yeah, exactly like that. Like it just feels like I got done with work and I like what I do, but now I'm gonna go home and eat. And he said, that's good. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, and Dan has these he's so dramatic sometimes when he puts his hands up and closes his eyes. He's like, "You've transcended," and I'm like, what does that mean? He was like, now you know you belong here. And I was like, huh. And he was like, we've always known, but now you know. And I was like, okay. And I went home and I sat with that for a little bit. And I was like, huh, I get it. Like I understand it. And then the next round I go, the same thing happens. And the same thing happens. And I'm like, and it's not that it's any less exciting. It's not that I love it any less, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And from that point, everything changed for me. It was the comparison stopped. Even though it's still a part of me, like that new guy feeling all but dissipated. My confidence increased, my composure increased, and everything slowed down. And it literally felt like I stepped over a threshold. And I know this sounds extremely ethereal, but I stepped over this threshold, and like all this pressure that I put on myself and that I had on myself, and these nerves and this anxiety was gone. And transcendent. And it was and still is an incredible feeling, because it feels like the work that I've put in and continue to put in, and the stress I put on myself and the pressure I put on myself, created a diamond. And I feel like I can't be broken now. And no matter how many tracks they throw at me, no matter how many changes, I know I can do it. And I know I can deliver. But that doesn't take away the nerves, doesn't take away the butterflies, because it's still important to me. I still want to do an amazing job. But there's that little part of me that's like, now you know you belong here. Now you know this is what you're supposed to be doing. So clarity is the perfect word to describe it.
Beautiful, bro. And it doesn't, and that still doesn't diminish your incredible work ethic, right? Because that's the part of the whole puzzle for you. So it's not like, walks on set, goes, yo, what's up? Hey, yo, script. Exactly. Nah, I got this. Woo.
Exactly.
Lights.
Exactly.
Where's my camera? Yeah. Check. This is on. Check. Let's go.
I never want to be that guy. Never want to be that person.
Nobody does. And you're not, bro. Because it's funny, because sort of automated becomes automatic, and then when you stop focusing so much on the outcome, you find the moment. And I think that's transcendent. The zen part of it, that beautiful, bountiful garden.
Definitely.
That very few I guess have the ability, I think we all have the ability to tap into it, but it's actually all about environment, right? Being in an environment where you're free and you're confident and you're comfortable to be able to do that. And I guess it's indicative of the time that you've spent with Dan and Rach and the team, Kylie, obviously, all of those guys that are there as facilitators. And I think that's the great role that they play, right?
Absolutely.
It's not to tell you, they see the magic in you. Like you were saying in one of your stories, that Sheldon was the OG that says, man, I see something in you. And it's kind of like,
definitely.
Me, because in your mind you're still this picture of this boy with the school bag on, right? First day of school.
Exactly.
And you see that, and I love that. I truly love that part of the story and where it's led you into transcendence. But if we talk about that journey, I mean, you've moved halfway across the world, and your home away from home, which has become your home, met, married, love of your life. And we talk about finding the one, the person, the ride or die. It's not, I heard a saying, but it's behind every great man. I'm like, well, beside, right? Beside every, and that's how it should be. It's that partnership. Yesterday was my 25th wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's incredible, bro. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulate her, mate, to put up with me for that long. I don't know how.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I've been on here for 46 minutes. So
I know. Like, what? Oh, click, and we're done. And that's the end of that. Yeah. So fortunate enough, and it's navigating the highs and lows. It's life, right? It's not all roses.
Yeah.
It is, again, it's work ethic. It's being there for each other through high, through low, through richer, through poorer. Through sickness, and sickness is such a broad term, physical, mental, spiritual, and in health. Being there to share an abundance of emotions, having someone know you better than you know yourself. I've had the opportunity to meet your lovely wife in Auckland, New Zealand, as part of a filming experience that was down there, and certainly, one of these people that commands, she has mana, which is the strength, that inner strength, and you can see the type of person that sits down and knees angled towards her at the table. But can you, as much as she would talk delightfully about the moment that you first connected, or you first listened, let's not use the word connected because it can go, I don't know where that's going to go, but let's talk about the moment that you first met. Can you tell us a little bit about the love story?
Oh yeah, bro, absolutely.
Please.
It was such a serendipitous occurrence. So my first filming was July 2017, and my roommate was Steve Clough. I had no idea who he was. I just knew he was extremely attractive, and
large,
and large. Yes, very very much so. And so get down there, and we're like chat. I think it's maybe like 4 or 5 days in, and this was back. Filming weeks are 5 days now. My first filming day was 2 weeks. My first filming experience was 2. They used to be way longer. So we got this apartment, and I think we're about a week in, and he's like, yeah, my friend Felicity's coming to watch me practice, and just literally, like, I have no idea who she is, what she looks like. I'm like, oh, she look good. And he's like, oh, piss off, man. Like, just kind of, I'm just being me. And I said, I told him I'd go to his class that Thursday. I think it was Wednesday. I said, I'm going to come to your class tomorrow because I want to see you teach. And I was exhausted that Thursday. I was like, oh, it was raining. It was gloomy. My eye cramped up on stage that day, I think. And I was like, I'm jet lagged. I just want to lay down, but I'm a man of my word. I told him I was going to go to his class. So I'm going to go to his class. And I go to his class, and hello, lovely. I go to his class, and there's this woman in the back, and I'm like, wow, she's absolutely gorgeous. Kept it moving, and I said, I really want to see her again because I want to talk to her. The next day, I see her talking to some other people on the team. I see her talking to Josh Berrier and Kylie, and I'm like, hey, who is that? And they're like, oh, that's Felicity. I'm like, okay, what are the odds of there being another Felicity that's here doing classes? And that was in Steve's class. And so I'm like, is that Steve's friend Felicity? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, there's no way. Run back to the room. I'm like, Steve, tell Felicity I love her and I want to marry her. And he's like, what? I'm like, just tell her, please. And again, just playing, I'm like, she's gorgeous. Tell her I love her. I want to marry her. He texts her, tells her. She laughs it off. He's like, hey, she'll be at breakfast tomorrow. I'm like, well, I'm going to be at breakfast tomorrow as well. Go to breakfast tomorrow. I see her. I'll stretch my hand and shake her hand. I'm like, hi, my name is Marlon. I love you and I want to marry and we have this great laugh about it. And so that filming round comes and goes, and all of us rode to the airport together. She's on her way. A few months later, Steve says, "Hey, Felicity has Instagram." So naturally, I go and like every single one of her pictures because I'm a stalker. And we get to talking. We're talking over the next few months, and I find out I'll be back in New Zealand in January. And she said, "Well, actually, I'll be there too." I was like, "Okay, we should get lunch." Grabbed lunch, and we talked for 3 hours.
Wow.
And when we hugged goodbye, I'm like, I'm in trouble. I was like, this is not good. I'm like, this is not good at all. I'm like, I really enjoyed talking to her. And like, as you get to Nike, you get to know somebody, and there's layers to them. And weirdly, we had so many things in common, like in our lives, but also our mindsets. Even though I'm this black guy from Cincinnati, and she's this white woman from Sydney, Australia. Like literally, couldn't be more worlds apart. But there's so many similarities, like the way we think. And we got lunch again the next day and talked for 4 hours, and couldn't stop thinking about her. And she left Auckland before I did in January, and that that city felt so empty when she left.
Wow.
And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, I just met this chick. I'm like, why am I? I'm like, I'm in Auckland, New Zealand. Why am I sad? Because she left. I'm like, leave me alone. Like, go away. Like, and so I get back to, I was in Augusta, Georgia at the time. I get back to Georgia, and we're talking, and she's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to New York." And I'm like, "You just tell me when, and I will meet you in New York." And now, keep in mind, we've had a few lunches together, like nothing crazy. And we're going to go stay in New York together for 5 days. And it was a movie-like experience, just like an incredible experience the entire time. Like we met
Beautiful
at this rooftop bar in Manhattan, and I'm just like, she's perfect. She is absolutely perfect. And I see her again in Auckland, and then I come to Sydney for a few days, for 2 days after the visit. And this was in May. And as soon as I landed back in Augusta, Georgia, I messaged. I said, I'm moving to Australia. I said I'm moving. It like, I was at a point where Augusta, Georgia had begun. It started to feel cramped. It felt like I wanted to move somewhere. I was looking for places to move. I had just gotten a promotion with the NSA that I was thinking about taking, but it turned down because of the Les Mills ambassadorship. And so I was like, I need a place for my wings to expand. And I moved. I packed my bags. It was the most stressful, hectic 3 months I think I've ever experienced in my life. But May, June, July, I got my life together, put everything I could in bags, and I flew to Auckland for filming in July with everything I owned, and then went straight to Sydney from there. And I've been here since. And she is. I've never had a partner like that. It's that person that you feel like no matter what, I'm not going anywhere. Like truly no matter what. Like, and and again, we've only been together for, well, yeah, since 2018, married in 2019. But I want this to be a test. Like I want to love her at her lows. I want to love her in sickness. I want the downs. I want the challenge, because this is the this is the first time I don't want perfect. I want her, all of her, and no matter what that looks like, because I feel like my ability to love her no matter what, that's the man I want to be. And she brings that out in me. She brings that she brings that desire to face into those challenges out in me. And you know, I'm sure you've heard or seen sliding doors, but like, to think that I'm here sitting down with her in the next room, and I think about it all the time. What was it that changed my path? What was that one thing that happened? And was it 2011? Was it 2014? Was it 2012? Like, what was it that led me here? Because if I ever get this opportunity again, I want to make sure I get that part right. Because it's incredible, because this is incredible. And she's just, yeah, she's amazing, bro. Like, I'm the luckiest man in the world. I really am.
Mate, I mean, I've got goosebumps actually. Just so it's hard, seriously, like, it's hard to explain what is not virtually impossible to explain, but what you feel, like that deeper level of emotion, that deep connection. And you know, in all honesty, when you find you can't fight that magnetic power that is determined that you two should be together, and how your heart just gets bigger that day.
Yes, definitely.
You know,
definitely. That's a perfect explanation.
And it takes time to break down those walls, and also not only to learn more about her, but to also let down the walls that have been built up over time in relationships and handed down, and the baggage we carry from the way we've been taught how to deal with emotional situations, with conflict, all of those types of things. And it's not always, you know, like I say, it's not always perfect, but you've got a realization that that's the journey you're on. But the main thing is, it doesn't matter when you're together. Through thick or thin, it just doesn't matter. And life couldn't be any better. I mean, I wouldn't have even imagined that I could be 25 years in to a marriage. When I first met my beautiful wife, and I blessed the day that I met her, and I saw her and instantly fell in love with her. But her brother was 5 years old, and he sat on my knee and fell asleep. He's 32.
That's crazy.
He's 32. He's 32. And the offer's still there for him to curl up on my knees. A bit bigger now. He pushes a couple of weights, but it may be uncomfortable for me, but these arms are still here for you, Simon. I'm just saying, bro, if you need me, I'm here. But but you grow so much as a human over that time and evolve. And life's not about staying the same. Life's not about it's you don't have to be the same person you were when you first met, because that's the point. You're adding so many experiences. And one thing that I've talked, because I've got a series, you know, been talking to people that I know through fitness, and I think it emphasizes to me the importance of putting yourself in an environment where you'll find challenge, where you'll find purpose, where you find people that think the same way that you do. Not all the time, but there's still got to be that little bit of conflict to challenge the way you think and do and act and feel. To take risks, to follow your heart, because all of these things, when you got into a situation where all of that resistance, but here you are, right? All of those objections, all of those challenges that you had to face as a human being, where you've had to pick yourself up with assistance, here you are. You know, what a wonderful opportunity. So the opportunity that I promote is, and I've said, take the chance, kick the ball, kiss the girl, jump in the water. Those are the things we need to embrace, because at the very least you'll learn something about yourself.
Correct.
You'll get a deeper connection to self and a deeper sense of self and purpose. But bro, I'll go back. When we talk about circumstances and you know, certainly I see you initially as viewed as the exception to the rule. And I guess the key in those moments is then it's going to take something exceptional to overcome that, and for you to give yourself credit for actually doing that. You know, for being able to pat yourself on the back and say, do you know what? that's something that I've overcome. All of those things that you talk about, that's part of you. Talk about the rich tapestry that is your history. And again, here you are, without those steps, without that resistance, when many people would have backed down, you stood up and proving not only to yourself, and it's not necessarily that you needed to prove to yourself, but that you're more than worthy and capable and incredible and exceptional. So another kudos, hand on heart to you.
Thank you.
I love that part of the story. Now the other thing that fascinates me is you wrote a book.
I forgot I wrote a book. You like when you said when you said author, I was like, what? I was like, oh yeah.
Damn.
I did. I wrote that. That's right.
Because it's one thing to have conversations. It's one thing to put it on YouTube, right? It's one thing to put it on Instagram.
Yep.
But to write your hopes, your dreams, your thoughts, your processes, to share deep secrets, moments, to put it in paper, to write it. To write it is one thing, right? To read it is another, and then to share it with the world is a whole new level. Bro, what were you thinking?
Well, first, let me preface by saying I didn't forget I was an author because it's not important. I forgot because, number one, I am a terrible pat yourself on the back person. I need to do that more often. I need to acknowledge the things I've done. But I'm so terrified of, again, that I don't want to feel like I'm, basking in it too long. So I tell myself, okay, cool. What you do? Like, okay, what's next? And then also it's strange to me that I look over at all these books I've read and my book is over there as well. Like it's trippy. It's unbelievable sometimes. So I told myself way back 5-6 years ago, I think it was 2015. I was like, I want to write a book. But at the time, I said I wanted to write a book because of ego. So I want to write a book because I've done a lot of cool stuff. And I think I'm a pretty good storyteller. And that would be funny. And they could probably make this into a TV show, or this would be a cool movie. And so I want to write a book. And so started writing. It took me forever to get a page because I would start and I'm like, I don't really know if that's where I want to start. And then one day I was like, you know what? I just need to start writing. And it was on a flight actually from, I think it was my first flight or second flight to New Zealand. When I finally had started making some substantial progress. I made bits of progress 2016, 2017 is when I really started to kind of go at it. And I just started at the beginning. It's like I'm going to start in elementary school. I'm going to talk about elementary school, and I'm going to talk about middle school and high school and college and then Les Mills. And my first draft was broken up, childhood, adolescence, young adult, adulthood, and I wanted it to be in chapters of my life. So the first section was, again, what it was like being a kid, what it was like kind of, being around, I grew up in a Black neighborhood, but I went to a white school, and what it was like going to a Black school and my clothes were all wrong and I needed to change my swag. And then high school and being a nerd, but people liking nerds because you got to go to college, and then starting all over in college because I went to a Ivy League school and they were some of the most affluent 18, 19-year-olds I've ever met in my life, and being confronted with that and that culture shock, and then Les Mills and the Army and all this. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is pretty good. And I sent it to somebody for feedback and it got destroyed. I'm talking about the type of destroyed where I didn't write again for 6 months. I
Wow.
was like, I didn't want to look at it. I wanted to delete the whole, that's how bad it was to it. Not someone I knew, just like an objective editor. I was like, hey, I'm looking to get this published. Like, can you just give me some feedback, or I don't know what type of editing I needed. I didn't even know about the different types of editing. And they were like, let's start with developmental. I'm like, all right. And they're like, this is confusing and there's no character development. And what does it have to do with this? You need to explain that just from start to finish. The edits were damn near as long as the book. I was like, okay. And it was a huge blow to my ego because the first draft was my ego.
Yeah.
And I put so much ego into it that when that got marked up and when I got destroyed and criticized, I was like, I took it extremely personal. And so that was 2017. And then, so I said, okay, let me scale some of this back. And since 2017, the book has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, because what I wanted to do is I realized I needed to change the organization. And I said, okay, well, what do I want people to get from this book? Do I want them to learn something? Do I want them to be entertained? Do I want to show them a part of myself? What people in my life are the most important? What lessons I learned that are most important? And so the book changed from big chapters to smaller chapters about lessons I've learned from individuals. And I tried that, and then it was in that realm of, I want my book to be long because a short book is going to be stupid. And so there was a bunch of filler, like a bunch of fluff, a bunch of stuff that didn't really add to the manuscript. During this time, this was 2018, 2019, coming into 2020, throughout this period, I went through maybe 3 or 4 iterations of the book. And it wasn't until late 2020, early 2021, that I finally gotten it down to, I'm just going to have these lessons, because the person I've become throughout my evolutions over the past 5-6 years, I wanted to trim away the fat, trim away the excess. And I wanted to be the purest form of expression possible that I could give. And that's where I had just the numbered lessons. And when I first had that idea, that concept in that organization, I think there were 138 chapters. And I told myself, no matter what, you cannot make this a multiple of 5. Don't try and make it 140. Don't try and make it 95. Don't try. It has to be something that is not a multiple of 5, because that will ensure that I'm not being Marlon and trying to make things clean and perfect. And there's also going to be no fillers. And so all throughout 2021, I began to chip away and take out chapters that were more about ego, or trying too hard, or didn't really give the vibe I wanted to, or too negative, or were worded wrongly, or could be combined with other ones. And I got down to 90, and then 80, and then 70, and then I was at 60. And then I finally got down to this manuscript of 54 chapters. And I said, this is the least common denominator. This is the pure, most concentrated elements of me. And I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm gonna send this to an editor. I got this incredible editor, this woman named Joanna Petronella from New York. She's done thousands of manuscripts. I send it to her, and she sends it back, and she says, I have no feedback other than some like, grammar stuff here and there. Some like, I'll change some sentences a little bit, but the content is amazing. This has been one of the highlights of my editing career. You have an incredible voice, and I've learned so much from reading this book, and this is going to do wonders for people. And I wrote it back, I said, are you blowing sunshine on my ass because you want a good review? and she said, listen, she said, you can go to my page. She said, I will never lie to an author. And she says, I have no, you've already paid me. So it's just like, that doesn't matter. He said, I need you to know that I'm being honest. And I said, thank you so much. And that was July, first week of August. And then I just sat because I was terrified, because I said, the next step is publishing this book. And I said, this book is me. This is me. Like, this is not what I think people want to hear. This is not just the highlights. This is not just the lowlights. This is not overly dramatic. This is not staged. This is exactly what I've learned, exactly what I've been through, and exactly how it made me feel. What if no one relates to it? What if people think it's cheesy? What if people think it's corny? What if people think it's stupid? What if people think it's preachy? Because this is not my ego. This book is me. Like, this book is actually me. And I made sure to say, this is not a guide to life because I'm 33 years old, but it's just, it's what I've learned. And I'm at a place in my life where I have the privilege and the blessing to be able to reach more people than I ever could imagine. And I want to share what I've learned because I've been through a lot. And so I sat for weeks, and I was talking to a friend, and she was like, you just need to just publish it. And I'm like, I'm scared. I'm like, I'm terrified. I don't want to. And she's like, you've been working for years on this, drafts and feedback and edits, and here it is. I wanted to format the book myself. I didn't want to externally do that. I wanted to design the cover. I wanted to format it. I did all of the legwork. And she was like, from start to finish, this is you, from cover to cover, just publish it. And so August 21st, I was like, okay, I'm going to publish it. And it was extremely anticlimactic, but it was published. And I sat there and I was like, well, I'm still not ready. And so I didn't say anything about the book for 2 more weeks. I didn't say anything, but I read the book and I confided in a few people. My mom was like, this book's amazing. I was like, Mom, I love you, but your feedback doesn't count. I was like, you don't count because you're not going to tell me my book sucks. I need somebody to tell me it sucks. That's what I need to hear. I need to hear it. Somebody needs to say it sucks. And so finally I'm like, okay, I'm ready to tell the world. So I put it out there and people start buying the book. They start getting the book. And I'm paralyzed with fear because I'm like, what are they going to say? Where's that where I need that 1-star review? Like, where is that? Because that's what I wanted it. Like I got to the point where I was like, just get it over with. It's like, I've been riding my road bike for like a year and a half now, and I still haven't fallen. And I'm like, I need that first fall to come so I can just be out of the way, but it never came. I started getting messages from people who I don't engage with, never like commented, or like I've never like engaged with them. I didn't know they followed me. And the feedback is, I can relate to this so much. I thought I was the only one. This speaks to me. I have somebody who's going through exactly this. I went through exactly that. How did you deal with this? Can you talk? Can you tell me more about what this did for you, about what this did to you? How did you get past this? And after about 4 weeks of the book being out, I'm looking and I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted this book to be. I wanted it to, and I meant it in the book when I said that even if one person reads this and they feel like they're not alone, that's all I cared about. That is truly all I cared about. And I felt that in my heart of hearts. It was never about book sales. It was never about comments. It was never about being tagged in stories. It was all about helping. And that is miles away from what the book was when I first started. And that evolution, within the evolution I was going through, the book is a perfect manifestation or personification of the changes in me over the time I was writing it. And I never imagined, I think that's like almost 3,000 copies that have been sold now. Like, I never imagined that many people wanting to like wanting to get that, and or even if you don't, if you buy it and don't read it, just like being willing to support it. But the number of people that have read it, and for me, honestly, the number of men that have read the book, it means the world to me. That is one of my most cherished accomplishments, is writing that book and facing into the feedback and acknowledging shortcomings and being willing to share and going through the process of formatting the book and publishing the book and put myself out there. Like, that is a form of vulnerability that I recommend every person goes through the process of writing a book about themselves. And even if you don't publish it and sell it, going through the process of writing it, sending it to an editor, and having a finished product, because there is nothing more there. There's just like, I just feel like it's one of the most vulnerable things you can do, because we cherish ourselves so much. And just as you said before, it's one thing to say it. It's one thing to put a video on YouTube. It's one thing to put a, Instagram post or a caption. It's another thing to write it down. And it's another thing to read it. And when you can look at yourself through that lens, I can't really explain what the experience is like, but I look at it as a intensified version of journaling. Like we journal to get our thoughts down on paper, but to get them on paper and then to read it back is to see yourself the way others view you, and the external self-awareness it gives you is just incredible. So to sum it up, it was one of the scariest, insulting, encouraging, profound, vulnerable experiences I've had in my life. Definitely.
Oh, bro. And you're right, by the process of writing things down, it's the story behind the story. So for it to make sense and for it to resonate, you have to go deep. You have to explore part of a sentence that's never been explored before, or articulated rather, right? Because we abbreviate everything. We want it short, we want impact, we're going to shorten that and fire it at you. But the story behind the story. It's interesting that you say about women reading the book, because it's a human story. And I think a lot of the things, even with a YouTube channel, they see a male on a channel that's not for us. And most of our viewers and listeners are actually females.
Right.
Wonderful, complex creatures that you are, but we all are. So being able to actually pick up a book written by a man, a human story about evolution, about growth, about development, is incredibly powerful. We need to understand each other more, right? Not two different entities living on a planet, but one human, the human race. Now, to be honest, bro, like I downloaded the version of your book, the Trimble version. And the only thing that has stopped me is I am halfway through Will Smith's book.
I just finished it.
Bro.
Just finished it. I just finished it.
And equally, just a version of life that larger than life. So I've got up to the Quincy Jones. I'm into that part of the journey, and the lightning strike. Charlie Matt, wait, what? Come on, man, where is this guy? Where's Charlie Matt? Bring back Charlie Matt.
Of course.
So that's the only reason. Now, the thing too, for those of you who are listening and watching, I have 2 copies on the way. One of them is mine, and I will keep that, and the other is to actually give away. We'll figure out a way just to reach out to us and put down a note, ask a question, do something. But I'd love for one of our readers or listeners to have a copy of that book to sit on the shelf. And the great thing I think about the YouTube platform and us having a conversation, a deeper conversation, is years from now, as per your book, your grandchild, your child, will pick it up and be able to get a sense of you in a deeper, more connected moment. Not the picture, not the dance, but you as a person. And I fucking love that. The picture on the book, the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So the selection of the artwork. I'm interested in your play as to why that particular picture.
I'd worked with a bunch of graphic designers, and there's a passage in the book that talks about the mind and about planting flowers or planting weeds, and how weeds don't need attention or care, prudence to grow and to flourish and to infect, but flowers do. They need care, they need attention. And I was in this space of, I wanted the cover to exemplify or to exude internal thought and care. So like introspection is what I wanted. And a lot of the designs in the beginning were like actual introspection, like, a person thinking, or, a lot of them focused on the title, like being the only one, but I'm like, that's way too arrogant. Like I want it to be like, it's me in this room by myself. I'm with my thoughts, but changing the narrative from being by myself to being with myself. And I reached out to one of the designers who had been giving me a little more of the vibe I was looking for. And I had sketched something and I said, I'm looking for, I think I want a heart, and I think I want this passage about the flowers to kind of be explained from the cover art. Like, can we create something? I kind of had this really rough sketch of like a heart, but like a heart that was made of plants or something like that, like to think about the seeds we plant in our minds, like in our hearts. And she said, okay. And she sent me something, and I was like, and then I saw this part of the heart that was like, looked like one of the chambers. And I said, could we make one of those the mind? Like, could we make the heart look like could we make a brain that looks like a heart, or make a heart that looks like a brain, or something like that? And have these, and have those flowers and those plants on it to think about the seeds we plant in our hearts and in our minds. She said, okay. And she came back with what the final product is. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, that is exactly what I'm looking for. This combination of heart and mind, body and soul, and the seeds we plant, and that theme being woven throughout the entire book. And how, so when you close it, you're thinking about the thoughts you have in your mind, and how those change the way your mind thinks or reacts, how it changes the way your heart thinks or operates or reacts. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be simple. I wanted it to be plain. I wanted it to be a bit something that makes you think, but when you look at it, you know what you're looking at. And the cover was just, worked on it. It was weeks. And I was at a point where I was like, I don't know if it's gonna happen. Like, I'm like, I can't. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get it, and that's gonna bother me. But the universe always finds a way, and it's the design, the the cover, the format of the book, I wanted it to feel like something you can take into battle with you. Like it's not flamboyant, it's simple, it's tactile, the way the book feels, like all these things that I didn't even think about before I got a version of it that had like glossy pages, and I'm like, ew, this feels icky. I was like, no, like I don't want that. And like I had, like white pages, I had cream pages, I had like, and I said, no, like this is what I want. Something that somebody would roll up and they have in their hand, always ready to go. And the cover art brought that together, because it's cover art, but it's also like it's like a crest almost. The crest, like something something you would have on your shield. And that strength of mind, strength of body, strength of soul, is what I wanted it to exude, and I feel like it definitely does that.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make note of it. I mean, it was either that picture or a picture of your abs, eh? Was it either?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
The complete opposite.
I'm gonna have to pay a program or something to try and dig up that picture, because it is just the most embarrassing thing in the world.
But I know, like, when you invest in something, when you love something, and when you love something, because when it comes down to crunch point, when you're pushing it forward in front of the world, and you can feel it, right? You could feel it. It's a different feel, and
yes.
And rather than, as you were saying, you were lamenting the first pages that were written were all about the ego, just stuck in the head, but you've really found this connected, real human element and experience, and it's rightfully so that the heart should be represented on that book. So again, bro, just for putting those words down on that page, for exposing yourself in a variety of different ways, for putting down a message that's really, really important. Again, man, I just want to commend you and again, kudos for that. I think it's an amazing feat. I certainly can't wait to pick it up after I finished. Well, it's my next book.
Definitely finish that.
Yeah, I'm glued, absolutely.
Yeah, I was.
To it.
It did not. I finished it in 3 days, and the only reason it took me 3 days instead of 2 was because I forgot the book at home one day or something like that. Like it just, yeah. And Will Smith is one of my heroes, and so I won't. You go ahead and finish it. Yeah.
But I mean, it's they from the start of the book with the story, with the brick wall, with the story about somebody's brother, and I'm like, fuck, it's got me. I'm not going to put this down. I'm not going to be able to put this down. And then the opportunity to talk to you, and I'm like, I've got to pick this book up, and I want to read it, and I want to really. But I thought the magic of our conversation will be in the not knowing. And then for me to meet you in person, have this conversation, and then really invest time in the book, I thought was a smart and sensible thing for me to do. And bro, like, and I can honestly, I could talk for days with you. When you're looking at our story as it unfolds, and we're all living our own story, but there's a moment, our first 30 seconds, our first minute for anybody across the planet are the same. We're brought into this world, a being of light, of intensity, of vision, of love, across the board. And I can talk to those that have had children that get to experience that firsthand when your baby comes into the world and you hold them for the first time. Now it turns out that my daughter's now 23, turning 24 and 19, so way different animals now. But I bless the day that I got to hold them, and every day since. But do you think, we talk about potential? We're born with this amazing light. Everybody is born with the let's say ability or potential. But the opportunity is the one thing, the opportunity. Not everybody's born with the opportunity, and that's the thing. We're born into circumstance. We're born into situations where, yes, you may have the potential, but because of where you're born, because of your circumstances at that time, a lot of the power that we truly have is either kicked down or stifled. And that's why I think it takes so long for us to get out of that and find our path and start to appreciate, find that side of ourselves, and invest the time and search for the opportunity, which I think you have. What are your thoughts on that as a principle?
Okay, so I am a strong opponent of victimhood, and I'm going to give context to all of this. So, as a Black person from the U.S., throughout my entire life, there was never a time when I wasn't aware of my color. In the US, wasn't aware of my color, wasn't aware of my circumstances, wasn't surrounded by death, by drugs, by violence, by prison, by statistics. And there's no shortage of reasons of why you can't do something. I didn't have, like, my parents were not absent. You know, even though my parents got divorced, like my father wasn't around as much, but I didn't have an absent father. My mother is the angel of my life. We didn't have the most, but we didn't have the least. And a lot of what I went through as a child and as an adolescent was, as you very well put, circumstances. And my circumstances, for me, built resilience. It required courage, it required grit, and it required edge, because I did not want what I saw happen to so many before me happen to me. I never wanted my mother to have my face on a t-shirt. I never wanted my mother to be explaining to somebody why I went to jail. And the big turning point for me, I had this older cousin named Javier, and Javier was the golden boy in our family. And he was like 4 or 5 years, maybe a little older than that, ahead of me. And he was amazing in high school, and he played sports, and he graduated high school, and he was about to go to college, and then he got his girlfriend pregnant. Not a big deal, all good. I went to 5 baby showers my senior year of high school, so it's like perfectly normal. He's like, okay, well, yeah, he's gonna have to take a year off because he needs to get a job, save some money. He's gonna go to college. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, Javier's going to college. The family's so proud. And then one day, go to my great grandmother's house for Sunday dinner, and Javier's mother is saying, yeah, Javier's in jail. I'm like, oh, what happened? Oh, he got roped up into something with some of his friends. It's not his fault though, but he'll be out in a few weeks or something like that. We just got to figure out the bail. And he comes home, and the dream's still there, and the excitement is still there, and the potential is still there, but you can tell it's tainted a little bit, because I can see the people, my mother and my aunts and my great aunts and my grandmother. I see their faces, and I see the faces saying like, oh, this is going to end the same way it has before. And sure enough, a few months later, he's in prison. And this time he's in prison for, I think it was 5 or 6 years. And I see this thing unfold, this role model that I had, this person who I looked at and I said, he's breaking the cycle. And I see him fall victim to the system. And I had this thought, like, is this what's going to happen to all of us? And I was 11 or 12 years old at the time. But I had these visions of what I want, and then I see this same thing happen over and over again. I say, I just can't let that happen. And so as soon as I start to get a glimpse of what it looks like to make it out and to succeed And I see that you can play sports, and sports can get you into college. And if you go to college, you can get a good job. And I can be the first person in my family to graduate college. That's what I want to do. And so I latched onto that, and I refused to let anything be the reason why I didn't succeed, except me. If I was going to fail, it was going to be because of something I did not do. And so I tried my best to remove the circumstance, because the circumstances is what was plaguing so many people from where I was from. And when I look back, let's fast forward to 2020, and the George Floyd death happens, and there's this massive increase in awareness around police brutality and the Black struggle. And I'm torn, because for the past 20 years of my life, or 18, 19, 20 years of my life, I've refused to give in to this, to address this narrative that I didn't get something because I was Black. I've been called the N-word before. I've been discriminated against. We got our house egged when I was in college, rocks thrown, all of it. But everything I've done in my life, I've made sure I was 2-3 times better, so that if it didn't happen for me, it was because I didn't do enough, not because I was Black. And no matter your circumstances or what you're born, you can't choose your parents, you can't choose where you're born, you can't choose who you're born to. But there comes a point in all of our lives where we have a choice. And I believe we can choose to surrender to our circumstances and survive as needed, or we can change our circumstances. And when people say this, I know it often sounds like, oh, well, easy enough for you to say, but you don't understand ABCD. And I completely understand that. But what I'm saying is that choice is going to come at different moments. It's going to come at different times. And that choice is going to be easier for some and much more difficult for others. And that choice or that opportunity is going to come multiple times for some of us, because we'll need multiple times to make that decision. And for other people, it's just once. For me, it was one instance. And I said, Dad, I do not want that to happen to me. For one of my best friends, I call him my brother, he's been in jail twice. The second time, he was in jail for 10 years. We got our college acceptance letters together. We were supposed to go to school. A month later, he was in prison, and he didn't get out to 2017, 10 years later. For him, it took a few more times, but he's decided he's going to change his circumstances. And so that you will be presented with opportunities to change your circumstances. And I'm sure you're familiar with David Goggins. David Goggins said on this podcast, from this talk show, they asked him what his biggest fear is. And he said his biggest fear is when he dies, he goes to wherever you go, and this person is sitting there, he's looking at you, say, "You're David Goggins?" He said, "Yep." He's like, "I just need you to verify this is you." And he's reading through all of this, and he says, "Wait a second, I didn't become a Navy SEAL. I didn't become an Army Ranger. I didn't run 5 ultra marathons. I didn't do bad water twice. I didn't break the world record for pull-ups. I didn't do any of this. Who is this person?" And the person at the gates is saying, that's who you could have been. And when I heard that, I thought about so many people are on this cycle of chasing happiness and missing out on it and trying to pick themselves back up and find it, or missing an opportunity. And I used to think that happiness was the key to it all. But it's purpose. It's happiness without purpose is fleeting. And happiness comes and goes because we need to appreciate the happiness. And happiness gets conflated with the desires because your desires make you happy. But desire is what you want. And purpose is who you are. And you'll read this very soon. The desire wanes and it fades, but purpose becomes stronger as you lean into it. And purpose contextualizes your suffering, and it helps you understand the sacrifices you're making and the pain you're going through. And so many of us allow our circumstances to dictate our happiness after the point where we've been presented with that choice of the opportunity. And we've decided to stay where we are. Maybe the first time it's because of financial reasons. Maybe the first time it's because of other obligations. And I completely understand that. I'm never one to say, everyone go out and eat, pray, love yourself into a happy life. Like, no, I'm not saying quit your job, get a divorce, and flick your boss off. Of course not. There are real life circumstances that we have to deal with, but we're all born and we all have a purpose. And one of the tragedies of our existence is that not everyone gets an opportunity to realize what their purpose is. And I think once you become an adult, I wish I would have started asking myself that question sooner. Not because I was going to figure it out at 18, 19. I was a terrible person when I was 20 years old. I had no idea what was going on. But having someone even say that we all have a purpose, and that purpose is not to have a stable job. That purpose is not to live the American dream, to have the house and the 2 cars and the 2 weeks vacation a year. Like it's not. Those are desires. Those are wants. But we all have a purpose, and maybe that purpose is being the biggest movie star in the world. Maybe that purpose is being an incredible father. Maybe that purpose is being an amazing mother. But as you said before, you said so many great things today. The chances and risk we take, they're opportunities to learn and to lean into who we are or who we're supposed to be. And so if you are someone who's listening to this and you're not sure, or your circumstances are less than ideal, or your circumstances are bad, your situation is bad, and you feel trapped, we all still have that purpose and we all still have that potential. And it's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be presented in a box, and it's not going to be this perfectly manicured, here's your purpose, and here's how you achieve it, and here's how you lean into it. It's going to be iterative. It's going to be an evolution for a lot of us. But I think the way you change those circumstances is you take risk. And there's no shortage of, I said this a few weeks ago, I am where I am because I've walked through so many doors without knowing what was on the other side. And I think that is a huge part of figuring out what our purpose is. Yeah.
Well, bro. I mean, and that's a mindset, eh? Because if you're in the mindset that now's not a good time, there's never going to be a good time.
Exactly.
So there's so many things that, and settling is a word that doesn't sit well with me either, because you're right, in regards to circumstance, you can blame a whole lot. Mel Robbins,
yeah,
you can blame a whole lot on external influences, but also, yeah, but ultimately it's up to us, right? You're the one that has to
Yeah,
stand up. You're the one that has to shift your legs out of bed, put your feet on the floor, and stand up and just
yep,
go and get it done.
absolutely.
Adversely too in our lives, you know, and I kind of lead back to one of these moments where we can give so many other people credit for the things that we've done in our lives because we're just not used to accepting that we played a massive part in it and they were there to help us.
Very true.
You know, so bro, can you tell me, and I asked Mandy Jones this question too, 3 things that you are proud of yourself?
Um, mm, I'm proud of, well, my gym, my gym in Augusta, Georgia is something I've always been proud of and always will be. Um, I was a very scary endeavor, but I'm proud of not only the gym opening, but I'm proud that I made it out of that period of my life. Um, because that was hard. Depression, eviction, hunger, uncertainty, fear, stress, anxiety. Um, but not only did I make it out, but me and my gym partner made it out, and the gym made it out of that period. So definitely proud of that. Um, I am proud that I finally wrote that book. I'm proud that I'm an author. Uh, I said that was something I wanted to do, and I had every opportunity to back out and every opportunity to stop. Um, but but I persevered and I stuck with it and I published it. And I've provided that to other people. So I'm absolutely proud of that. And I think the last thing I'm proud of is I'm proud of myself. I I still have work to do, definitely. But when I look at who I was 15 years ago, graduating high school, um, I was the class president, prom king, all the usuals, captain of the football team, basketball team, track team. And we had these superlatives, you know, like the most likely twos. And I won the superlative for the most likely to succeed and the most likely to change the world, and a bunch of other ones. But those two were the ones that put the most pressure on. And I said, wow, like this is what people think about me. And a few days ago, actually strangely last week, this guy I went to elementary school with. We ended up not going to the same middle schools and high schools. So we stopped going to school together like 6th grade. Found me on Instagram. And I don't view myself as famous. I quite honestly don't look at myself as successful yet, because what I think is success is being the president of the United States. And I'm not the president yet. So I'm like, oh, I'm not quite there, right? But he messages me and he says, bro, like I just found your Instagram, man. Like a friend of mine was telling me about this program she does. And this guy she follows who's extremely inspiring, and she loves doing body combat, and it's changed her life. And she showed me some of your videos, and I'm like, I went to elementary school with that guy. And I said, Scott, that's crazy. And he was like, he said, I knew there was something about you even back then. I knew this is who you were going to be. And we never give ourselves flowers. We never give ourselves pats on the back. We never give ourselves any credit, just as you've said. And when he said that, like, this is not someone who was in my circle of influence or someone who was who is just falling in line because that's what everybody else is commenting under the Instagram post, and they want to keep it positive. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. Like, this is someone who hasn't been in my life since I was, for the past 20 years. But the impression I made then aligns with what I'm doing now. And I truly believe that's because, though there have been plenty of distractions and plenty of setbacks, I've stayed the course. And I do feel like I've become who I was supposed to. And I think that the gifts I was given and the talents I was born with, I've used those for good and to get the most out of the set of circumstances I was born into and the cards I was dealt. So, this is the first time I've ever answered this question. And definitely the first time in my life I've ever said I was proud of myself. But if I had, like three things, is I think I would definitely be one.
I love that, because I think you can put as many answers in the front of the most important answer, but eventually you get there. That the final one should all be, I'm proud of myself. And you should be. Like I say, the depth and connection, the purpose. And for me, can you, because you have it down to a sentence, right? And I love how you've explained it. And I didn't want to say whose purpose is, but could you just state in your words, connected to this moment, your purpose?
My purpose is to help people believe in themselves and to lead and inspire the changes that are required to find and protect that belief. I believe there are so many people who are uncertain about themselves and who don't believe in themselves and who are critical of themselves and who feel like they're unworthy, who feel like they are less than. And I genuinely want every person in the world to know that they're good enough and that they really can be whatever they want. And that even though it may be difficult, and even though it may not be clean and it may not be easy, and it may be hard, and it won't be convenient, and it won't be fair, but you can be who you're supposed to be, and not enough people realize that.
So much to love about that statement and the follow-up, bro. And like when I was, I talked about our background, I put a background in, and trying to and again, the purpose, I try and pick something that resonates with me, that I picked up about you, and purpose was the word that I had instantaneously. Like, it's not just, oh, what should I put? Handsome. Let's put handsome. Dynamic, charismatic. But purpose is the word. The purpose is the word, and the lightning strike, because again, that Quincy Jones moment in Will's book where he's talking about, Quincy is a lightning strike. And it's easy.
Such a good part of the book.
Bro, I just loved it. Just hearing even that about Quincy, I'm like, man, I'm going to ring the guy. Come to dinner. He might be my second DM slide, by the way. Quincy, you don't know me, but I feel as though I know you. I think we get on. But bro, yeah, like the it's easy to see, well, it's not easy to see. I mean, I think we are conditioned to see the potential, right? And it's up to us to act to assist people to get it. But you've also got to, in reality, be able to see the struggle.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to,
absolutely.
and you've got to be able to talk to the struggle, and you've got to be able to coach the struggle.
Yes.
Because again, Mel Robbins talking about the vision board, too many people have got the picture, the end result, but not realizing, visualize the steps, visualize the bricks, not the wall, the steps that you have to take, visualize the pain, visualize the downtime, visualize the days when everything is conspiring just to say, nah, that's it for me, not today. Those are the moments. So that's the part in the journey. So when you get eventually to the picture, and like you're like, yep, next, chalk it up. Bro, I feel as though I've like, honestly, I feel as though this connection and this conversation could go deep into the night. It's like what I call a fireside chat.
Oh, absolutely.
I've just loved the opportunity to connect and talk to you. And again, I feel as though I've thrown you on the spot, and you've responded so eloquently, and there's so much gold back in this conversation. What I love about this, I go back, and a lot of people don't say, oh, I'm not going to listen to that podcast because it's gone. But this is an opportunity for me to listen to this conversation and recount just I'm going to reabsorb every ounce of it, because I've loved the opportunity just to sit and listen to you.
Thank you.
Just to get a snapshot. But bro, I'm going to throw you into the cage again. And if there was just like a parting phrase or something that's important to you, a message that you'd like to leave, given in this moment, in this day and age, is there anything you'd just like to share or say before we sign off on the potty?
One of my favorite quotes is Theodore Roosevelt's address to the South African people. It was the man in the arena, and the first sentence is, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails while daring greatly, so that his place will never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Yeah, that is one of my favorite quotes. And for me, it says to myself, to anyone listening, don't worry about who's watching you, and don't worry about what they think. But this thing called life it's your fight, and you will fail, and you will fall, and you will hurt, and you will bleed, and you will cry. But I would rather die standing for something than live for nothing. But we forget that something can be you. It does not have to be something outside of you. You can be who you're fighting for. And you can do that every day of your life, and you will have lived a full and amazing life.
Wow, what a beautiful ending to a truly wonderful and beautiful conversation, mate. Again, emotional, grateful that I'm in a position to be able to open up a conversation and connect with you and talk about something that means so much to me, and to hear it in those words articulated in that way is incredible. I thank you for every second of the conversation, for saying yes to the DM slide. I know that our paths will cross again, bro. You've got my details.
Absolutely, they will.
My home is your home, and I humbly mean that. if you're in New Zealand. I hope to connect. You will get a
Thank you.
hug. I'm a hugger. That's just the way it goes. But I just want to wish you, your lovely wife, and your family all the very best. Not only for Christmas, but for every day after. I can't wait to catch up with you again. This has been an amazing, connected, emotional experience. I knew it would be. And again, grateful for the opportunity to share this with you. Thank you so much, Marlon. I truly appreciate you as a human, and I can't wait to push go and share this with the D.M.C podcast team. Wow, far out. That was episode number 39 of the D.M.C podcast. If you can be anything, be kind, firstly to yourself, then everybody you come in contact with, look after one another. I can't wait for you to listen to this. The book will be up for grabs, but if you see it, the only one in the room, please feel free. Look it up on Amazon, hook it up, follow Marlon on Instagram. You will not regret a second of any piece of information that he has. It may blow your mind and take you to a whole nother place, and that's exactly the point. So episode number 39, thank you so much again, bro. Connected for life, and I mean that truly. Thank you. I appreciate your time. And that is us for the D.M.C podcast, episode 39. And that's us for peace.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Thank you, bro.